Chloe, and this is Gabrielle. Hi, Gabrielle.
Hi.
We're really looking forward to sharing with you a little bit about what we've been really excited to be talking about and exploring even more in depth recently around primal brain and the fight, flight, freeze, and how that shows up in our lives, how that shows up in society, how we can really work with that and in our own lives. And we're really excited to be here with you and wanting to just dive in and share our own experiences and this really important part of our work that has just been instrumental in our own lives and we've seen be really, really helpful in other people's lives as well. So thank you for being with us.
It's really listening to you and feeling the significance of this body of work in our lives. What is the fight, flight, freeze response, the reptilian brain's response in relation to our emotional and spiritual worlds? Not just like, yes, if you're about to get slammed, you'll have a reaction, or yes, if you're really scared, you might freeze, or yes, if you see a car, you might run. But this other dynamic in it, and I can almost still feel and remember the first time that I thought, whoa, like, wait, our primal brains are not only our safety mechanism for our physical bodies on earth, but they're that's the foundation of why we exist.
Mm-hmm.
Like this primal brain, this survival brain knows exactly why I'm living. And to me, that was like, right, it's the seat of our souls. And so, whoa, right? Like primal brain has everything in it. It seems to be the very thing that keeps us alive, is going to be every reason why we have needs, every reason why we're in relationship or not, all the aspects of how community affects us, our own relationship to what we bring to earth, and then what our soul is actually desiring when we get here. So just it's actually incredibly complex and amazingly beautiful. And for me, it was life-saving to think about my survival skills, not just on this fundamental psychological, physiological level, but on this spiritual, psycho-spiritual, energetic, emotional, soul-driven level. And that's what inspires me about this work, really got me out of my own way.
Totally. I mean, and it's, for me coming into this work 10 years ago and really learning this as one of the first things I learned of the body of work. And it was so transformational for me to realize that some of the, symptomatology in my body that was, I had Lyme disease and I had a lot of trauma in my past and I was just kind of a mess and I was so uncomfortable and I was really honestly really controlling with a lot of people in my life. And I just like, it didn't all make sense to me. I felt really kind of lost and confused as to why I was such a mess. But I just couldn't get to some of that like undercurrent of what was going on and to really understand like, oh my goodness, like, yes, not only is it like the trauma or like the moment of like, okay, I'm getting slammed here and my body's reacting, but like this can be a pervasive chronic state to live in. And not only is it about like trauma to the body, but it's like, we as humans, as souls, have emotional and spiritual needs in this life. There is so much more depth to it. Like if I'm not, for me, I remember so clearly the first time my primal brain, like when we went in and used some of our tools to get in there and see what was underneath, for me, it hit the love circuit. And it was like, oh my gosh, I just remember having this like, all of a sudden it went all the way through my life. And I was like, wow, I have been confused about love and if I'm even lovable at all and what that even means and how in the world I can do that and be that. How do I be in friendships? How do I be in relationship with my family? How do I be in romantic partnership and actually come to it in a space that feels, clear and empowered, not just completely victimized by my whole circumstance all the time. And then I get controlling and then this and that. Like I didn't realize how much that could actually be linking into my physiological responses and my body's digestive issues and headaches and like all of it. Like, how could that really be connected? And that's what so blew me away when I first started to learn it. And it's obviously become more complex over years, but it's been a huge, huge, huge thing to look at for myself and to see other people really looking at as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know when we were in the Activate Change series class and we were at the end and people were asking, okay, so what are those little things we can do to awaken living, the theme was living in our ahas, living in more awareness. And to me, it's just more awareing, like how do we maintain a certain kind of connection to our aware bodies and our aware essences. And it wasn't until the end of the class that I was like, right. That key is also in the primal brain functioning, because when our primal functioning is trapped in an old story, or even what now might be an obsolete functioning, when it's still fighting for something that it got frozen in time fighting for, then that uses up a lot of vital resource, including the kind of resource we need in order to be aware. It's a real intense drain. And that isn't to say that we can go back and fix all of these patterns that we've digested, literally, figuratively, physically, that we've inherited some of that. And yet sometimes there's an obsolete fight or flight that's still happening in the physiological systems of the body that isn't really required to be there because it isn't serving a purpose in the same way anymore. So what we've been finding is, as you unpack that, you also get this incredible gem of being able to have more awareness and more perspective on the dynamics you're in. What we know is that when there's enough pervasive trauma, or even enough pervasive oppression, which is trauma, there's a real split that happens. And this like polarity occurs where we get very much in our either or brain.
Right.
Either I am loved or I'm not. Either I am safe or I'm not. And we lose all the most amazing textures and abilities to see in between those two lines. And so that's some of the things I really love about the primal brain understanding it differently and looking at it from the lens of our emotional beings and the lens of our spiritual beings, is that we almost recover ourselves. We recover our consciousness, from where it's snagged and or derailed for our survival. Yeah, not that it wasn't purposeful, but where it may no longer be serving, right?
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, it's just it's been so empowering, really, to not say, oh my gosh, I'm bad or wrong for having that, or like, wow, I've lived so much of my life like terrified that I'm going to be abandoned, and that's really impacted my relationships and my ability to be intimate with people or whatever it is. And then to be like, wow, well, maybe just maybe that programming and that thought in yourself actually made you survive the unsurvivable, like to your emotional little self as a child, for instance. Like, if you're truly abandoned, like that is threat to your survival. And how then do you almost update the programming and be like, okay, what if this is obsolete? What if this might I still need to have in my toolbox so that I can use it at times, and to really just start a different relationship with that, instead of just having it being like a constant kind of almost truth that you're living into all the time. And how
we talk about them getting so fixated that the more pervasive the traumas are, the more intense the conditioning in, the more neglect and abuse and violations there are, the more we then recondition ourselves to accept that reality in whatever way we need to, and therefore we go unconscious about our survival skills, and they just become normal, and we think that that's all there is, right? So this process is really about that discovery. And so many people say, like, just understanding that survival skill or that functioning allows me to relate to it differently. It doesn't mean, some people still need those very same skills, but at least they're conscious of the skills that they're choosing, or the patterns and habits that they need in present time. So anyway, this is a huge,
there's so much, obviously.
It's a
And
good place to like,
totally.
but it's beautiful. Yeah.
Totally. And just like really just reiterating, it's not about fixing it. It's about like, what is it to build resilience and create a different relationship to it
Yeah.
all.
Thank you all for listening.
Yes. Thank
Hope
you
to see you
for
somewhere
being
soon.
with us, listening.